When it comes to doing what Wolverine does, no one is better than our favorite mutant. However, that does not mean that the Marvel Universe does not have characters with powers similar to those of Wolverine. Many great tropes in this fan-favorite hero have been used for other characters throughout the years. So, in today's video, we will look into some such characters and see who wins. May the odds be ever in your favor, Wolvie, and let's get to it. Now, before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Sabertooth. If Wolverine is the cool kid in the Marvel Universe, then Sabertooth, aka his arch-nemesis, is the equally cool but slightly edgier kid. Don't you think? Victor Creed, originally introduced back in the 14th issue of Iron Fist in 1977, is very much like Wolverine. He is a mutant with enhanced senses, a decisive healing factor, razor-sharp claws, superhuman reflexes, and strength. Not only that, the man is also Canadian. Now I wonder if that sounds like the replica of another character that we know about. Can't quite put my finger on it. Oh, wait, it's Wolverine. Victor and Logan have extremely similar power sets, and it would be entirely valid if one were to look at Victor Creed as Logan's first ever clone. I wouldn't blame you. These fully equal power sets became even more prominent when these two characters finally duked it out. When these two characters met for the first time and went for each other's throats, oh boy, that was a spectacular fight to witness. I mean, very yin versus yang energy, if you ask me. But despite such uncanny similarities, there is one small difference between them. See, Wolverine and Sabertooth, both of them like killing people. However, the motive behind the killing is what these two otherwise similar characters have in different priorities. When it comes to Wolverine, he kills people who he thinks deserve it. Sabertooth, well, he doesn't really care. If he sees you and wants to kill you, it is only a matter of time before he does. This tendency of Sabertooth to be a violent, unpredictable, and chaotic killer is what makes him different from our favorite mutant hero. While they have a long-drawn animosity between them, for fans, it is impossible to just picture one of them without the other. Deadpool. On the surface, when you compare Wade Wilson to Logan, it seems preposterous to even compare these two. One of them is righteous, fights for what's right, and sure, he has anger issues, but he is working on them, while the other one, well, is Deadpool. Wade and Logan are not the two faces of the same coin like Sabertooth and Wolverine, but there is no denying that Deadpool has abilities similar to those of the Wolverine. The happy-go-lucky merc with a mouth is a Weapon X project, just like Wolverine is. In fact, it was Wolverine's healing factor that was injected into Deadpool to arrest his cancer. And Wolverine's healing factor did a rather good job until, well, when Wade killed his teammate Slayback on a mission. After that, his healing factor started to deteriorate, leading to scars on his face that we all know very well. As he was now deformed by the standards of a Weapon X project, he was sent away to hospice, a place that was said to be a safe haven for failed superhuman operatives, but was far too malicious in reality. In this hospice, Wade went through a bunch of sadistic tortures at the hands of the head doctor, Dr. Kilbrew, and his assistant Ajax. One thing led to another, and eventually Ajax ripped out Wade's heart and left him to die. But see, Deadpool was not going to die so easily. Ajax had lobotomized Wade's only friend here, and vengeance is definitely quite the powerful source of motivation. This vengeance jump-started the merc's healing factor, and ooh baby, we are back in business. But this is not the only aspect where Deadpool is similar to Logan. Deadpool is pathologically lonely and always looking for someone to call home, but he never manages to get that because of his terrible and mysterious past. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Wolverine and Deadpool are tragically similar to one another once you peel back the surface layers, and that earns Deadpool a spot on this list.
The Soviets created him. Red's got his own plans for this country, and worst of all, nothing.
Omega Red, introduced back in the 90s along with many iconic villains in the Marvel Universe, Arkady Rosovich managed to secure a rather important place in the hearts of X-Men fans. There's literally no doubt that this character was created to complement the Canadian mutant. Superhuman strength with agility? Check. Durability? Check. Retractable body parts? Check. Getting those retractable body parts embedded with some super strong metal? Check. Have a mysterious past? Check. See, does it not sound like Logan himself? Arkady was born at the peak of the Soviet Union times and was recruited to be a Soviet super soldier. Once he got those sick cybernetic enhancements, which, by the way, were coating his retractable bone tentacles with carbonadium, he became the evil Wolverine, better known as Omega Red. During his tenure as Omega Red, all Arkady wanted to do was destroy Team X, which led to his pretty hateful relationship with Wolverine. Even when Omega Red died, the clones made from his body, Omega Black and Omega White, hated Wolverine and Wolverine's team. How deep is your hatred, Omega Red? Omega Red even served as the Horseman of Wellness in X-Men, that is, Nathaniel Gray's team. Eventually, however, the Russian Wolvie met his demise at the hands of Logan when Arkady collaborated with Dracula and the Vampire Nation to get Wolverine's blood. Well, given that he died in Wolverine's hands, there is no doubt who is stronger, but there's one cool thing about Arkady that I have to mention before we move on to the next person on our list. Arkady has a special ability known as Death Spore that allows him to kill pretty much anyone who is near him. You would need someone with an extremely strong healing factor to combat this power and defeat Arkady for good. Guess who it was? Well, obviously, it was Wolverine, hence proving that Omega Red was indeed created to complement Wolverine's powers in a way. Such a cool character design, totally chef's kiss. Jimmy Hudson. Over the years, the Marvel Universe has expanded quite a bit. We got the view of the multiverse firsthand with Earth 616, Earth 1610, and a lot more. Each of these Earths had their own version of Wolverine, and Wolverine certainly fathered quite a bunch of children, adding up all the kids from each Earth. Jimmy Hudson is actually Ultimate Wolverine's son, as in he is Earth 1610 Wolverine's son. Logan and James Hudson were serving together in the Iraq War, and when they found out what a reliable man James was, Logan asked him to take care of his son. Jimmy's surname was changed from Howlett to Hudson, and he grew up not knowing he was a mutant or that his real father was Wolverine. Eventually, Jimmy found out who he actually was when his powers manifested in the middle of a drag race, and he healed in the blink of an eye. While this led to his girlfriend shunning him, Jimmy had bigger things to worry about. And in comes Kitty Pryde with all the answers. Kitty showed up with the belongings of his father, who we learn has passed away. In the box, along with Logan's dog tags, a newspaper clipping featuring him and a lock of Jean's hair, which is totally weird, was a holographic message. Jimmy learned his true identity from that message, which calmed him down enough to access his other mutant powers, as in the claws. Jimmy forced out his retractable bone claws, which somehow managed to get a metallic coating on them when he focused more. But don't let that confuse you. Jimmy does not have the adamantium skeleton, but still, he has pretty much the exact powers that his father had, making him quite the believable Wolverine whenever he takes on that role. Romulus. One of the most popular tropes in the comics has to be the whole concept of an evil counterpart. We have seen it return time and time again, but somehow when it comes to Wolverine, it never gets boring. Romulus is just another of the many villains who are exactly like Wolverine but evil. However, there's more to Romulus than that. See, Romulus has been around for a long time, longer than you or I could ever imagine. According to Romulus himself, he had been around since prehistoric times. Romulus even claimed that he had ruled the Roman Empire and held gladiator fights just for a sick, twisted pleasure. However, Remus, Romulus's twin sister, often debunked all of Romulus's claims because, as it turns out, you can't believe anything the man claims. Romulus is a master manipulator, and while all the villains introduced so far have been playing the short game, Romulus has been in it for the long game. Everything that happened in Wolverine's life ended up this way because Romulus had been manipulating it since day one. Romulus was the one who took Wolverine's son and turned him into a lethal killer, hoping to turn him into the next generation's Weapon X. Other than his mysterious past and pretty similar powers, Romulus, like most Wolverine foes, had worked with Wolverine up close in the pre-Weapon X days. Romulus is a sick, twisted individual, and there is no debate about that. I, for one, can't help but draw parallels to Reverse Flash with this sort of dynamic. Lady Deathstrike. Yuriko Oyama, better known as Lady Deathstrike, has had a personal beef with Wolverine for ages. Yuriko, who started off as a normal girl in an abusive household, eventually managed to kill her father and get the freedom that she so desired. However, despite her father being no longer around, his presence and his teachings chased Yuriko until she gave in to them. Her father, Kenji Oyama, was a crime lord in Japan, obsessed with adamantium and the techniques to lace it onto human bones. I am pretty sure you guys can guess where this is headed. Well, when Yuriko defeated her father and eventually succumbed to his madness, she found out about Wolverine, the man with the adamantium skeleton, done the exact way her father had designed. Now, the papers that her father wrote, as well as all his life's work, were stolen, and Yuriko was more than confident that it was Wolverine who had done it, stealing Oyama's pride. But the reality was that Yuriko's tutor was Mrs. Stryker, wife of William Stryker, the lead of the Weapon X program. It was the Strykers who stole the data, not Logan. But Yuriko was dead set on defeating Wolverine. When she tried to attack him the first time around and got defeated, Yuriko went and got cybernetic enhancements made of adamantium that turned her into quite the literal bombshell. Yuriko could manipulate her nails and turn them into sharp 12-inch claws made of high-quality adamantium, allowing her to pierce through practically anything. These cybernetic enhancements were modified by Donald Pierce, a very popular anti-mutant activist, which gave her a cybernetic healing factor, making Lady Deathstrike absolutely unstoppable. Add superhuman strength, reflexes, agility, and stamina to the list, and now we have the perfect copy of Wolverine, gender-swapped and evil. Yuriko has fought with Wolverine many times, and from her fights, it is clear that Yuriko has a lot of tricks up her sleeve that make her extremely strong. Her martial arts skills, paired with the very adaptable cybernetic enhancements, give her the extra oomph factor that she often used to get a jump on Wolverine. Their fights are usually bloody, and Wolverine must use everything at his disposal to stop Lady Deathstrike. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, am I right? Scout. Gabby Kinney, better known as Scout, was one of the 10 clones made using Wolverine's DNA. But wait, let me clarify. This Wolverine is not Logan. This Wolverine is Laura Kinney, one we know as X-23. As you know, Laura Kinney is a byproduct of Wolverine's DNA, so in a way, Wolverine is, Scout's father? Family dynamics aside, Gabrielle's similarities with Logan are far too many to ignore. Let's start from the beginning. As we mentioned, Gabrielle was one of the 10 clones made to create a strong group of bodyguards. This project was undertaken by Alchemex Corporation, a very powerful multinational chemical company in America, with Robert Chandler as the head geneticist. The life that Gabrielle had was cruel. While Gabrielle's older sisters tried their level best to protect the youngest one from the brutal abuse they were going through, they could only do so much. The head of security was Captain Mooney, a man infamous for being cruel. Gabrielle's body was infused with nanites that were slowly shutting her body down, effectively killing her. As a side effect of these nanites, Gabrielle could not feel any physical pain. Still, the mental and emotional pain she went through, seeing her sisters being abused and eventually succumbing to the fatalities of the nanites, were enough to scar her permanently. Only 4 out of the original 10 clones survived the nanite side effects and the brutal missions they were sent on. Gabrielle was one of them. Gabrielle eventually took revenge on the Alchemex personnel with the help of her surviving sister and eventually met with Laura, whom she joined promptly. Gabrielle, as a sidekick, is a tough nut to crack. With her heightened senses, regenerative healing factor, and claws, she is quite the formidable force despite her age. Unlike Wolverine, the original one, she does not have 3 claws on each hand. Instead, Gabrielle has only 1, But what she lacks in number, Gabrielle makes up for it with her sheer grit and willpower to not be dominated in a fight. Her past is shady and filled with tragedy just like Wolverine's, giving her character an extra dimension. Despite that, her personality is quite different from Wolverine's. I'm pretty sure Wolverine would have been proud of this kid of his, unlike the other one, whom we will discuss a little later. Wildside. This creation of Robert Liefeld is no doubt a blatant copy of Wolverine. Everything about Wildside, from the hairstyle to the powers, reminds readers of Wolverine just like Rob Liefeld had intended. However, despite being clones, some changes between the two characters make it easy to distinguish them. Richard Gill was actually a mutant who happened to be one of the founding members of the Mutant Liberation Front, a terrorist mutant organization. We have seen the MLF clashed with the New Mutants, led by Cable, in several instances. Not only that, the MLF also clashed with X-Force when they were trying to jailbreak their brothers. Now, given how many activities the MLF group was doing, they surely caught a lot of attention. However, not all of them were of the good kind. In fact, precisely because of their rambunctious and extremely illegal activities, Wildside was targeted and eventually captured when he was a depowered mutant after the M-Day event. He soon became the newest addition to the new Weapon X program, where he went through cybernetic enhancements, giving him retractable techno-organic claws that would come out of his fingertips. There were some small differences, for sure, but anyone can see what a blatant copy of Wolverine this character is. This is a sterling example of Robert Liefeld's Wildside as a writer. X-24. In the movie Logan, we see a clone of Logan roaming around. This clone is who we all call X-24. The Acolyte Corporation created this clone as a continuation of the Transigen Project. This Logan is younger, faster, and stronger. While he is not as experienced as the OG, it would be stupid to assume that Logan can defeat X-24. Even Logan himself knew that as he fought X-24, given his age and healing factors weak in state, there was no way he would stand a chance against the brute powerhouse that X-24 is. By the end of the movie, Logan was fatally injured by X-24, who was eventually stopped by a bullet in the head, courtesy of X-23. Say what you want about the movie, love it or hate it, but we have to agree that Hugh Jackman gave a stellar performance as Logan and X-24, which I greatly appreciate. Man has held the throne of Wolverine for so long that it is hard to imagine someone else don that mantle. Daken. Wolverine has had quite a few kids, and sure, children are supposed to be a menace to their parents, but this son of his was on a whole different level. Yes, we are talking about Akihiro, Wolverine's son, with his Japanese wife Itsu. When Itsu was in the last trimester of her pregnancy, Winter Soldier killed her, hoping to lure Wolverine out. That failed, and Itsu was left to rot with her baby inside. However, when Romulus is in the picture, things don't go the simple way as you would otherwise imagine it. Romulus cut out the baby and was delighted to see that the baby had his father's healing factor. With the child of Wolverine with him, Romulus devised a dangerous plan. He left the baby in the care of a traditional couple who had been praying for a child for a long time. While the couple was happy to have a baby, Romulus knew things would turn sour sooner or later, and sure it did. The boy, now named Akihiro, grew up as a misfit. He had no control over his powers, and his mother started believing he was cursed. When Akihiro learned that his mother was finally pregnant after years of trying, he felt his position being threatened. Furthermore, it did not help that his father accidentally told him that he never loved his adopted son. So, the adopted son killed the baby after he was born, which led to the mother attacking Akihiro with a rifle. Feeling scared, Akihiro's claws came out, and in a haze of confusion, adrenaline, and a lot of screaming, Akihiro slashed through the rifle and stabbed his mother in the chest. The father found out what had transpired and killed himself as he could not bring himself to hurt his own son. Seeing how things had turned out more or less how he had planned, Romulus showed himself to the child for the first time, and finally, Akihiro let go of his name and embraced the viciousness of his nature and went by the name Dhen. Dhen was first introduced as Romulus's lackey, but it was later revealed that he was actually Wolverine's son. He was brought up hating Wolverine and with one goal: to kill him for good. Dhen's hatred for Wolverine was so huge that he was willing to go through any kind of pain if it meant he would be able to kill Wolverine. Dhen had 2 claws coming out of his knuckles and 1 dew claw. This crazy boy laced all of them with Muramasa blade, knowing very well that this would be lethal for him, but he knew that it would kill his father, so he thought of it as a win. Dhen was eventually killed off by Wolverine, who helped us breathe a sigh of relief. Shatterstar. Hailing from Mojo World, Gavidra 7 may not look like a Wolverine-like character. However, as you deep dive into the character, you will see that Shatterstar and Wolverine have quite a similar backstory. Both of them are killers with a shady past, which has been retconned so many times. Even to a degree, their power sets are similar. Shatterstar has regenerative abilities and superhuman powers, like strength, durability, and stamina. But there is one tiny difference. While Wolverine has claws as his weapon, Shatterstar is much more comfortable using his swords. Now, even though most of the Wolverine clones or Wolverine-like characters have interacted quite a bit with the man himself, Shatterstar kept his distance from him. I won't lie, seeing these two interact would have been nice. X-23. We have saved the best for last. Let's talk about Laura Kinney, the character who is most like Wolverine. A mutant artificially created in the facility with Wolverine's DNA, Laura is better known by her tag, X-23. She was created to be a brutal assassin, and since her birth, her trainer, Kimura, had put X-23 through hell to ensure she knows how to pull her weight. She was forged into this brutal efficiency by Kimura, while the lead geneticist, who happens to be her surrogate mother, gave X-23 a little bit of affection that made her more human. Eventually, Sarah Kinney decided that even if it killed her, she would get her baby girl, X-23, out of the facility to safety, which she did, and thanks to her, Laura is now free. Laura then decided to track down every other mutated vile weapon like her and finish them for good. She tracked Wolverine to the X-Mansion intending to kill him, but instead, when Wolverine offered her help and argued that she was the victim, Laura decided to join the Xavier Institute, becoming a popular and well-respected pupil there, something that took Wolverine far longer to achieve. Laura has everything that Wolverine has, from the claws to the regenerative abilities. The only difference is that Laura has 2 claws on each of her hands and 1 claw on each foot. This small difference in the claw placement makes Laura a very difficult opponent to beat, because when she kicks, you might get skewered through your ears instead of getting knocked out. Marvelous verdict. With that, we come to the end of the list. All the characters that we have mentioned here were created with a love for the original character Wolverine. Imitation is the best form of flattery, and given how popular Wolverine has become, we are surprised there aren't more characters like him. At the end of the day, this proves what an iconic character Wolverine is and how loved he is by the fans. Let us know which character from the list you love the most in the comments. Until the next video, this is goodbye. Oh, and if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe out there. Thanks everyone.